Well, welcome to Christ and Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural analyst. And I've been talking about the food stamp EBT SNAP crisis. The last couple episodes, I've talked about the morality of taking government handouts when you are able to provide for yourself, when you just simply don't want to go out there and earn the money or obtain the money in the honest way, and how a lot of the people who are receiving food stamps or SNAP benefits are simply not trying hard enough to be self-sufficient and dependent only on their own resources. They're actually trying to get the government to give them free stuff. And who wouldn't take free stuff? Everybody likes free things. If you put up a big sign and say, hey, free turkeys giveaway, you'll have people who are able to afford to buy a turkey. You'll have wealthy people go in and get a turkey. Why not? So it doesn't prove anything when you have people saying, I need this or I need that. Sure, they'll take whatever handouts they will be given. But we have a new development here in society, and it's really alarming, it's disturbing, and it's caused by bad government. And that is the crisis that we have here with the government shutdown and the interruption in the food stamp recipients receiving their monthly replenishment of their SNAP card. And now they're threatening to rob and loot stores like Walmart. And they're doing so openly and honestly on the internet. They're not even hiding it, and they're threatening it on Twitter and YouTube and all kinds of social media platforms. They're just saying, well, if you don't give me my food stamps, I'm going into the store, loading up a cart and walking right out, and try to stop me, and I'll have my cousin, one of the videos said, I'll have my cousin beat you up if you try to stop me. Threats of robbing and looting and pillaging stores if they don't get the free government handout food. That is supposed to be only a temporary fix for people in crisis until they can get on their feet, and then they get off food stamps. Well, many millions and millions, 42 million people in this United States get food stamps now. And most of them have this mentality of entitlement. They're entitled to it. The government owes it to them to give them free food. Government should feed them, house them, clothe them, give them transportation, give them health care, give them everything. The government, they feel entitled to everything. And now, because there's the threat of EBT food stamps not coming through in the beginning of the month, they threaten now they're going to loot and pillage Walmart and other grocery stores to get the food they need because they're so entitled. They think they are owed this money, they owed this food, and if they don't get it, they're going to riot. And it's not just a number of idle threats that are being posted by, wackos, radical fringe people on the internet. It's to the point where the actual police are worried about the results. Let's turn again to an article in the Detroit News. It says, Metro Detroit Police grocers prepare for worst if SNAP benefits cut. So we've been hearing about this crisis in SNAP benefits. The government is shut down. The Democrats in Washington refuse to negotiate. And so the Trump administration says, okay, we're not going to be able to, because of the government shutdown, we're not going to be able to send the food stamp benefits to the states. And so come the first of the month, there will be no money received by the states to disperse into the food stamp programs. And now people are threatening to steal, loot, rob grocery stores to get the food they want. Instead of going other routes, other legitimate routes, like people have gone through for hundreds and thousands of years, providing for their families, they are going to riot and loot stores to get what they want. And so it's to the point where the police now, and you can see this policeman, and let's see the caption under it. It says, Southfield Police Chief Elvin Barron said the department has directed its officers to provide special attention to the grocery stores if SNAP food aid benefits get cut. So this is not just an internet hoax. This is not just idle threats by one or two wackos on the fringe of social media. No, this is so widespread that the police now around the Detroit area are actually gearing up for riots and looting and stealing and acts of criminality in response to the fact that these people may not get their food stamp allotment for the first of the month, even if it's delayed. You know, right now, the government shutdown is now 30 days into it, but we don't usually believe that it'll go the whole month next month. At some point, both sides will get together, they'll negotiate a settlement, they'll get the food stamp funds flowing once again, even though in my last few videos, I advocate that there needs to be an overhaul of the whole system, and there needs to be a very strict means test given and applied. Only the needy people, the genuinely needy, should receive food stamps, and only on a temporary basis to get them on their feet until they can get over their crisis, whatever it is. So I believe this is a great time to overhaul the whole system and really clean it up. We're talking about efficiency. Elon Musk was talking about the first 6 months of this year, the government efficiency and cutting waste and fraud and in programs such as SNAP. And so it'd be a great time to overhaul the system, make sure that the people who really need it get it, and the people who are just scamming the system and mooching off the backs of the taxpayers do not get it. We do not want those people wasting our money when they can afford the food themselves. So most of the people on SNAP right now are not in an emergency. They don't need the benefits in the sense that they would die and starve if they didn't have them. So we need to really radically overhaul the system. But we all expect that the SNAP benefits to continue at some point during this coming month. But even that is not enough for people who have grown dependent on it. And some of these people are really threatening to steal even if it's delayed a couple weeks. So they're not willing to lift a finger to try to figure out how to get food for themselves and their family. They're going to go directly to crime and steal it. Let's read this article and talk about this, because this is really a bad reflection on our modern society. We're supposed to be a prosperous nation. We're supposed to be one of the beacons of light in the world. We're supposed to be a nation where immigrants are flocking to get, even illegals are crossing over and trying to get into our country because it's so good. Well, if it's so good, why are our citizens threatening violence because they don't get free stuff? This is really a bad look for the United States when people are threatening violence for not getting free food from the government. I think our founding fathers are turning over their grave and saying, what in the world has happened to our citizenship when people, if they don't get free things, are willing to commit crimes? Totally unreasonable. It says in the Detroit News, Metro Police Office officials and grocery store owners said they're hoping for the best but preparing for the worst if more than 1 million Michiganians lose access to food aid amid the federal government shutdown that began October 1st. So they're already threatening, these social media posts are already threatening violence. They haven't even tried to accommodate their families' needs through legal means. You haven't even attempted to reach out to the community and to family members and to the church and asking for help if they need the help directly like that. No, they're going directly to criminality. This is really sad, and this is bad. And this really exposes a segment, a large segment, a growing segment in our society who are willing to turn to crime as the first resort. That's what's so disappointing. That's what's so alarming and disturbing. That civilization, our society, what we call modern civilization, is so close to just criminality, rioting, looting. But we kind of already knew that because of the George Floyd riots and the burning of Minneapolis and all kinds of other instances that have happened in the last decade or so. We kind of knew, had a feeling that this was true, but again, we're reminded of the fact that there are people, a growing number of people, millions of people, who are willing to resort to violence or crime to get their way instead of working it out peacefully and legally. It says state officials announced last week that food benefits for 1.4 Michiganians would be delayed in November due to insufficient funding during the federal shutdown. Okay. The U.S. Department of Agriculture previously said 42 million people across the country would not receive their supplemental nutrition assistant benefits starting November 1st. So they're probably not going to get these benefits when they normally would. But that doesn't mean they won't get the benefits actually during the month. It just means it'll be delayed until both sides in Washington can negotiate, come to common ground, and then unfortunately, the full benefits will be sent out like they normally are, and I don't think they're probably going to do an overhaul of the system. They're not going to reform it. They're just going to negotiate how they can start it flowing again, which, again, is a bad idea. But so the people who will not be receiving these benefits at the beginning of the month means that they will have to wait a little while to get this free food money. 42 million people are going to have to wait a few weeks to get their free food. And it sounds like a lot of them are not even willing to do that. And they're going to resort to illegal means to get food. Federal judges in Massachusetts and Rhode Island ruled Friday that the Trump administration must continue to fund SNAP using contingency funds during the government shutdown, but could decide whether to fund the program in part or in full for November. So you have some radical left, liberal, Democratic judges, one of them appointed by Barack Obama, who are trying to say to the government, especially the Trump administration, you must provide the 42 million people with their free food. You have to. We order you to. Now, in my opinion, I think Trump should tell these judges to go take a long walk off a short pier. Or, in other words, get lost. I think Trump should just tell them, look, you're a federal judge and you're part of the judiciary branch of the U.S. government. Why are you trying to tell me, a part of the executive branch, what to do? You have no authority. And I would just tell them to take a hike. Because they're trying to push a liberal, leftist, radical agenda on conservatives through the court systems, like they've always tried to do. Through Roe v. Wade, they tried to, and they did for decades and decades, almost 50 years, they imposed abortion on the whole country through the liberal, leftist, Democratic judges. And now they're trying to push the administration of Donald Trump around through liberal leftist judges here. And they're trying to tell him, you must fund this free government giveaway to the 42 million people. We are ordering you. And I think Trump should just tell them to take a hike and ignore them and see what they do. What are they going to do? They can't send in the military and they can't send the police. All they can do is make their little rulings, but what gives their branch of government authority over every other branch of government. No, there's supposed to be checks and balances. The following initial SNAP cutoff announcement, dozens of people took to social media. Now it's not just dozens, it's hundreds of people, maybe even thousands. If you take all the social media platforms, there are thousands and thousands of people who are threatening criminal action, stealing. People took to social media and threatened to loot stores if their SNAP benefits were cut off. They weren't even hinting. They were actually saying, we are going to steal food from Walmart, and you better not try to stop us. Local police officials have taken note and are preparing for possible trouble. So it's gotten to the point where the police are actually taking these threats serious because they realize, hey, it's not just a couple people, it's hundreds and thousands of people who are going to Facebook, YouTube, X, all of the platforms, TikTok, and threatening to steal food out of grocery stores if they need to get food. Instead of, again, going through the normal means of getting something that you lack. So let's say you need gas for your car. You don't just say, well, I need gas, I'm going to go rob a gas station. No. You try to figure it out, all these other possible ways to get what you need. You don't immediately to the first thing go to criminality. But that's what a lot of these people are saying. And the police are, of course, taking it seriously. They have to. They have to be prepared for whatever might happen. We have become aware of social media postings of individuals who have stated that they would take groceries without payment, Highland Park Police Chief James McMahon said in a statement. As a result, we are deploying special attention units to grocery stores, markets, and other stores that supply food. These units will work with businesses and consumers to address any challenges that may arise from these types of situations. So they're preparing. And I've heard reports also today about someone visiting a rural Walmart out in the country, and there were some unmarked SUVs out in the parking lot moving periodically from place to place, and he was thinking it looked a lot like, and he's seen these unmarked police cars, and they're just watching the situation, making sure that people are not getting robbed on their way out of the store. Some of the threats on the social media have said that we're going to wait until white people, specifically by name, white people come out with their food, and then we're going to rob them of their food and take their food and steal it from them in the parking lot. So in other words, the people wait until the consumers already paid for all the food and brought it out in the cart, and then they take the food from the cart and steal it and take off real quick. They don't even have to go into the store. And then others are saying, no, I'm going to go into the store and fill my basket up to the full, and I'm marching right out the front door, try to stop me. And my cousin, one of them said, my cousin's going to come along and he's going to beat you up if you try to stop me. So these are actual public threats of theft and looting in the stores. Southfield Police also have a plan in place if the benefits get cut, Police Chief Elvin Barron said. Now, I heard the one black commentator saying to his fellow African Americans, saying, look, the Bible says thou shalt not steal. It is against the Lord's will for you to go into a business and just steal food. That is wrong. That is immoral. You need to calm down and get a grip and think through what are your options, and do not go to crime as your option. And so I have to say amen to that. Yeah. Where's the fear of God? Where is the respect for law and order? Where is respect for the Ten Commandments? Thou shalt not steal. Where is respect for the authority? You just can't do what you want to do. And if you want food and the food stamp benefits didn't come at the time they were supposed to, you just can't go up to someone and rob them to buy food. Salvia police have also have a plan in place to get the benefits if they're cut. We are aware of the concern over people losing benefits, Barron said. Dispatchers and patrol officers have been notified. We directed our officers to provide special attention to grocery stores. Yes, so the police are gearing up. Detroit Police Department did not respond to a request for comment. Sam Bahua, who has owned Liberty Food Center on West McNichols in Detroit since 1986, said he's preparing for problems. We are afraid there are a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck or in a limited income who really don't know what's going to happen if their benefits get cut. Everything is in the air right now. We're trying to prepare, although we're not sure exactly what we're preparing for. Well, he's getting ready for something because of these threats that are out there, public threats. And he's also worried about not being able to stock perishable items. He's worried about the impact of losing the SNAP benefits will be on his business because some of these stores have basically built their sales model on people getting EBT cards and going and buying government funded food. And this will affect his economics, yes. And it says SNAP benefits in Michigan are released over the first 3 weeks of the month, depending on the recipient's Social Security. And so then Michigan elected officials are taking steps to try to help as far as releasing funds for this month until the government gets back to business. And then in New York, the head of Bodega Alliance, a group of store owners, pleaded with residents not to loot the group's businesses if SNAP benefits are cut. So the bodega, or the little small market alliance of store owners, are urging people, please do not loot. This will not help anyone. It will not help you long term. And that's pretty sick when you have to actually appeal to people to not loot, to not steal, to not rob. I mean, where is the fear of God in this society? Now, in the old days, when people had a hunger problem, food crisis, they would turn to church. And this is another option. People can go to church. There can be special meetings. And those that have food can share the food with those who do not. This is the New Testament pattern. We saw this happen in the Jerusalem church. They brought their food together. They brought their resources together. They helped each other out through a temporary crisis. This is the way it's supposed to work in a civilized society. You're not supposed to loot and steal and commit acts of crime in order to get food. You're supposed to work it out legally. You're supposed to work it out rationally and with community, and turn to family members and someone who, the food is going to be there. There is food on the shelves. The stores are open. It's not a lack of food. It's a temporary halt in the free government handout program called SNAP. And this is a wake-up call. Again, like I've said before, we shouldn't have 42 million people in the United States, especially illegal immigrants, people who are not supposed to be here legally. They're here illegally. They shouldn't be getting food. This is how the immigration crisis accelerated, because you had these big caravans coming up from Central America through Mexico, thousands of people seeking the United States because they knew that if they got here, they could cross over and then they get free food and they get free housing and they get a credit card with thousands of dollars on it to cost of living and all of these. That is a bad incentive, and we need to stop that. That is not the purpose of government, and we need to look to God and to His Word and stop running on our emotions like some of these people who are threatening to steal. It says here, we are just afraid that if they come in and loot and one of the bodega owners and workers intervene, they could get shot and they could get stabbed and they could get killed. And that is a real threat. When you have people, lawless people, in a state of anarchy and chaos, anything can happen. breakdown of law and order. This is anarchy. The New York Post, citing anonymous law enforcement sources, reported that Walmart and grocery stores throughout New York State are being threatened with mass looting, which could actually turn into mass shooting, but it's mass looting at this point. A Columbus, Ohio dollar store boarded up its windows this week in preparation for possible looting if SNAP benefits are cut, although the store later removed the barriers. Hey, they're afraid. They're afraid. Businesses are afraid. The Barstow Police Department in California is also preparing for possible looting, the department said in a Facebook post. So this is disappointing that this is happening in the United States. Even if the SNAP benefits are delayed, that is no justification for looting and rioting and stealing off the shelves or stealing people's food in the parking lot as they unpack it to get into their car. This is criminal behavior, and I hope it doesn't happen. What needs to happen is these people need to sit down and stop panicking and stop hyperventilating, and they need to pray and say, okay, God, how do I get this food money for this month? And then talk it over with friends, talk it over with family members, and those that have food, share with those who don't. And talk it over with neighbors and community people, and also check out the food banks and check out churches. A lot of times churches will get together and organize and help their own members and even those who are not members, and they can work it out. And that is totally biblical, where the church people got together and fed their members and also fed people outside. And those that have can share with those that don't have, and they get through whatever crisis, temporary or long-term, they face. This can all be done without violence, without looting, without criminal behavior. And for people in the thousands to be threatening violence and looting and theft in the Walmarts and grocery stores around the country, this is awful. This is terrible. Shame on them. And it just exposes a really big problem that a lot of us already had known about before, and that is we have people, a growing number of people in our society, who are willing to resort to crime to get their way, instead of the ways that people have gotten food and housing and shelter and clothing in the past. And that is, they had to go out and take responsibility for themselves. Usually the man of the house, the husband, the father, had to go out and work and get the money to buy the food, to pay the rent, to buy clothes, all the necessities of life. And if you're a woman and you think, well, I'll just get the government to pay for my kids and I'll never get married, or if I do, I'll just get divorced and go on food stamps and the government will pay for my housing, Section 8, and I'll load up on all the benefits. If you're thinking that, this is a wake-up call. No, don't turn to the government. Turn to God, turn to family, turn to friends, turn to church, and God will provide all your needs. That's what the Bible promises. Do not turn to crime. Should never have to be said, but I guess today things like this have to be stated directly. See you back next week. God bless.